afternoon we're making Vietnamese spring rolls. This is not a recipe I would necessarily make underway because it requires a lot of fresh vegetables. So either at the very beginning of our trip or when we're in port somewhere. I'm going to start by making the peanut dipping sauce. And that first requires 2 cloves of garlic, which I'll chop up pretty quick. You can grate the garlic or use a garlic press. However, whatever makes it easiest for you. I like chopping. It gives me a sense of zen. So I find this actually kind of relaxing, even though sharp implements are involved. Of course, you can use less garlic if you're garlic intolerant, or more if you love garlic. Okay. Next, I'm going to take 1/3 of a cup of peanut butter. So it can fit in there like that. So we'll do it this way. Yep, that looks just about perfect. And then 2 tablespoons of rice vinegar. Two tablespoons of soy or imitation of the tamari sauce, which is not quite as salty, and it's probably a little better for you. 2 tablespoons of honey, or you can use maple syrup if you prefer that flavor. And then finally, 1 tablespoon of sesame oil. And then take your whisk and have at it. At first it's a bit of a gloppy mess. But as soon as you start incorporating the fat of the peanut butter into the liquids, it will become a smooth and creamy sauce, I promise. Could have used a bigger bowl, but we use what we have available. And a smooth and creamy sauce. The next part of the recipe requires a lot of chopping. As a matter of fact, chopping all the vegetables takes the most amount of time in this recipe. So I'm going to chop and we'll just go along with it. First I'm starting with red cabbage. I'm going to slice it thinly. 2 carrots And these are supposed to be like matchstick size. So julienne or matchsticks, cut them in half and in half again. And then I'm just going to cut them into little matchstick size. Remember, always keep your fingers tucked under, because that's how you get cut. A Persian cucumber or a regular cucumber. I like the Persian ones because they don't have as many seeds. So if you're going to use a regular cucumber, I would say seed it or de-seed it. I'm not quite sure how that goes. But take the seeds out. Let's go move the plate over here. It'd be easier to see and easier for me to get to. Now, before we started, I took some vermicelli, some rice noodles, and I cooked them and added a little bit of that till they were al dente. Add a little bit of sesame oil, and then I also, for this recipe, you can either go vegan or depending on the soy sauce you use, or you can add some protein, and I'm going to add some shrimp to some of them so that I'm going to go half and half. Some will be vegetarian and some will be non-vegetarian, meat eaters. Let's take some butter lettuce. You can just tear this. Into small bite-sized pieces. And some spring onion. Small rounds. And I'm going to use a jalapeno pepper. I'm going to take the seeds out so it's not quite as hot. And again, when you're working with jalapenos, be careful. Don't touch your face afterwards, because the seeds are the hot part. I'm going to just mince these up fairly small, because you don't want too much in any one bite. All right, so we've cleaned up a little bit and we're now ready to create the spring rolls, put the rolls together. I have sheets of rice paper that you can buy in any Asian store, or I think I could even get them in any supermarket nowadays. So you put it into a pan of water and just let the rice paper absorb the water for a little bit. And then once it's pliant, you can see the difference between how it was and how it is now. Put it onto a tea towel and add a little bit of vermicelli, the noodles, some of the lettuce, the cucumbers. I'm George says I always overstuff these, so you have to make this a personal decision. And some of the carrots and some of the cabbage. Add a little bit of the spices, the mint and cilantro, a little bit liberally, depending on how much you want. And then comes the folding. So I fold one side and then the other side, and I try to get as tight a fold of the third side as possible, and then I start rolling. And there you go. I'm just going to cut it on an angle just to make it look pretty. And there we are. And you just continue making as many as you want, as many as you have ingredients for. I obviously have a lot of ingredients here, so again, make as many as you care to.
Bonnie's finished the Vietnamese spring rolls, and we want to make a cocktail that's nice and light to go along with this nice light dinner that we're going to have. So we're going to make a grapefruit and gin spritzer. So, as always, I like to use fresh fruit juice. So I've got a nice big grapefruit here. We're going to juice it. It's a beautiful pink grapefruit. Now, typically I would have you do fruit juice with a juicer, but this is just too big to fit in there. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to use a fork to help us get as much juice as we possibly can out of this grapefruit. We might even have to do 2 of them. We'll see. Just before I do this, I'm going to take a nice big slice out of this one because we're going to use it later on for a garnish. Okay. Get plenty of juice out of that. Get a little rinse, wash the juice off my hands. Great. So, our ingredients. We're going to use, in this case, just a generic gin. We don't want to use a flavored gin. We're going to have a little bit of fresh lime juice. We're going to have some simple syrup. And of course, our pink grapefruit juice. In our mixing glass, we're going to put a few cubes of ice. A little runway. We're going to put 2 parts of our fresh grapefruit juice. There's 1. And 2. We're going to put 1 part of gin. Just a splash of simple syrup. And a splash of fresh lime juice. I just froze this yesterday. Okay, here's the fun part. We're going to take a sprig of rosemary and actually push it down into the shaker so that as we seal the shaker, give it a good smack, shake it. That rosemary is going to infuse the drink and really bring out the flavor of the gin. So, to present, put some ice in a glass. Then we're going to find the biggest part of the shaker, smack it with the back of our hand and make it loose, and then use the shaker itself as a strainer, just to strain the drink off. There we go. And we're going to take that extra piece of grapefruit that we had, and a bit of rosemary for a beautiful garnish, and there you go. We had fun making this video. Thanks for joining us.
Bon appetit.
See you next time.
Bye.
Cheers. Oh, that's good.
This one, Chef. Take a spoon. Put some on our plate. Huh?
Lovely.